Okay, we are live. Happy Tuesday,
Happy Tuesday, brother.
Chris. What's going on?
Pretty uneventful here, man. I finally heard back about the peer counselor thing. It's just
Oh
an
yeah, what
email.
they say?
It's just a really long email. Where's the echo coming from?
There's an echo.
Yeah, I'm getting a weird echo. I don't.
I don't know. I'm not hearing anything. Let me go on mute. See if you hear it.
Oh wait, it's my fault. It's my fault. Got it. Got it. It
Damn
was
technology.
the. It was the. I didn't know I still had the tab open. I thought I already closed it. The YouTube tab. Anyway, yeah. All I got was like this really long, complicated email, but it gave me some links to start with and stuff like that. I have some more stuff to fill out, but I'm gonna apply for their financial aid stuff and all that stuff and see if I can go through the classes and see what happens. So
Oh, okay, cool. So the next step is to just put in the application.
yeah, pretty much just got to put in applications for financial aid and for a couple other things to, and I guess apply for the classes and stuff in general. And yeah, I don't know. It looks pretty promising, I guess. I mean, it does say they go to pretty great lengths to like warn you that you have to go through a lot of like training and a lot of like hours and stuff like that you have to
It's so
do,
stupid.
but it's okay.
I know they keep adding more and more bureaucracy to it. They're doing that here too.
Well, I can only imagine that without much bureaucracy, as people found out about that as a program, there probably were some instances of people that probably shouldn't have been in that program getting
I don't
certified
know.
or
I'm part of the screening process. I'm part of like quality control,
right.
and I think we do a pretty good job of
Oh,
filtering filtering out without all that bureaucracy.
you might do a good job there, but no telling here in Texas. So it's a whole different state, whole different thing. So I don't
I
know.
don't know. They're trying to professionalize us here, and I don't. I think that's gonna leave some really good peers out of the workforce that don't necessarily fit into their image of professionalism. Me being one, like honestly, I don't know if I could even do it now with the new requirements they're trying to put in.
We'll see. I don't know. I before all of this, before everything happened, I lost my job at Amazon, stuff like that. Um, which I'm technically supposed to be rehirable there, but I still can't get rehired. But anyway, but I was going to go through massage therapy school for because I feel that would be a nice like freelance thing I could do, and I'm pretty good at giving massages. So, but with the vertigo, it doesn't really. I really can't do it. I don't know. I'm really hoping. I'm putting a lot of stock right now, and I have this doctor's appointment in 8 days, and I'm really putting a lot of my eggs in that basket of getting restabilized back my medication, stuff like that. If I can get my ADHD stuff and everything like that, so I'm not so scattered and stuff like that, I might be able to. Because before I ran out of my meds and ran out of the prescriptions for them and stuff like that, I was doing a lot better with the vertigo even. But not having even my ADHD meds or antidepressants or anything like that, in addition to vertigo, it's a bad combination of things. So if I can't take care of the vertigo, at least I can take care of the rest of my health otherwise, and hopefully that'll be enough where I can, even if I get really dizzy, I can still kind of function better. So anyway, yeah, that's about up with me. I know you said you had a real long, tiring weekend, or I guess retreat or whatever it was. It was more than a weekend. It was like Wednesday through Sunday, right? 5 days.
Yeah, it was Thursday through Sunday. Um,
Thursday.
I staffed a weekend for the new the new warriors, the new men coming in
Right.
for their initiation. So I got to kind of see it from the other side. I did my weekend in July,
Okay.
and it mm, I really I really don't want to say too much about it because I want to honor the confidentiality.
Okay.
It,
That's fair.
it it was mixed. I don't know how much of it is Mankind Project itself and how much of it is Pacific Northwest culture, because I wonder in the South if their Mankind Project does it the same way they do up here. It's just very process heavy, and I don't know.
Yeah, I
I'm not a
understand.
collectivist. That's not how I grew up.
Well, I mean, yeah, that was something we mentioned last night in stream that I think is a really interesting kind of conundrum, or at least a weird dichotomy that exists between community oriented people versus collective based, because at a glance it kind of seems like they're the same thing, but they're not at all. They're completely different, because
No, I've
a
always
community can
noticed
exist
that.
of many different individuals with different ideas and goals that still work together for various ends or something like that. But collectivists, every single body, every single person has to be like of the same mindset, have the same set of principles, have the same, they all have to be focused. That's the reason why, in collectivist leftist circles, like, it's the reason why they purity test everybody to oblivion, because anybody that steps outside that collectivist narrative, they they literally endanger the collective itself.
Yeah, but I don't
they're entirely
understand what
not.
that is. What's
Yeah.
being endangered? Group harmony?
Well, to a degree, since it all grows out of those socialist and communist type of ideals, it makes sense to a degree, because that's the reason. It's something I was thinking about today for some reason. I don't even know why I was thinking about it now, but I was thinking about the fact that in democracy, in a democratic country like the United States, or anywhere else that's democratic, you can if you are a collectivist, if you are someone who really thrives in a culture or in a community that is very collectivist based, and like a socialist or commune or something like that, right? You can exist within the confines of a democratic country and still live in a commune, and it doesn't really conflict with the democracy. You can just live like that life, and democratic countries will leave you alone, and you'll be fine. But you reverse that. If you're in a communist country, you can't live in a little democracy community, because because in itself, any kind of community that is against that collectivist goal of the overall socialist or communist utopia, it endangers the entire idea of it, because people see other people living better than them, and that makes
Mhm.
them dissatisfied, and therefore it creates unrest, and it's a spiraling effect that destroys the entire state. If you are a communist, or you were able to install a communist regime in a country, there is no way that you can exist without some degree of authoritarianism, usually a large degree of authoritarianism, because you have to make sure everyone's on the same page. Otherwise, it falls apart. So yeah, it's really interesting to me that how people don't see that. They don't see the fact that in America you can be a communist and it's fine. You just can't try to install communism on the government, but you can be a communist and live in your commune and do all that shit, and no one's really going to bother you. But it doesn't work the other way around. Communism requires everyone has to be brought to line.
Yeah, that's kind of what it felt like. What I in Vegas and New Orleans, in Vegas I was involved in their hiking group. It was huge. It had like thousands of people. And then I started one in New Orleans, and we had hundreds and hundreds of people. And we were always hiking and camping and road trips and this and that. And everybody showed up
Mm-hmm.
however they wanted, with whatever they wanted, and hiked however they want. We didn't tell each other how to do their outdoors. And so when I moved up here, I was looking for outdoor groups, and they have this big outdoor organization here. So I went to their website, and they had all these rules, like when you show up at the hike, you must have this equipment, and we're going to check and see that you're carrying these 10 items, and you have to stay with the group, and that you have to hike this. I'm thinking, this does not sound fun to me. I didn't need this in any of my groups. We managed just fine. We had a great time with adults self-determining their own pace and their
Yeah.
own equipment. And I move up here, and they wanted everybody aligned to one style with all the same equipment. So that's when I first noticed it. And that mentality permeates everything that happens up here in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah. It's kind of, or it's kind of seems similar to like one of those. It's hard to tell if that's. I'm sure being in the Pacific Northwest, it probably is collectivist attitudes, but it almost sounds like an extreme or a less extreme version, maybe in some cases, of like those HOA things where they demand that every house has the same
Mm-hmm.
length grass and the same color trash can and shit like that, right? Like anybody that breaks that conformity threatens somehow. They feel threatened by the what? Remember that the X-Files episode. Did you ever see that one where like
No, I didn't
they
watch the X-Files
you didn't
because
watch
Twin
X-Files?
Peaks spoiled me. I couldn't watch the X-Files.
There's some really good X-Files episodes. I'm not a huge fan of the series. Like after a certain point, it's kind of falls apart and stuff. But there's certain individual episodes. There's one where they go to a they go undercover at this little like neighborhood where people keep disappearing, and they Mulder and Scully act like a married couple and stuff like that, and it's pretty funny for that because they're both play acting as a married couple, and but what's actually happening to the people that move in there. And Mulder intentionally starts like putting like tacky lawn ornaments and stuff, like a pink flamingo in the yard and stuff. And it starts pissing people off. And like what they're doing is they're creating a tulpa that eats the people that come in and break the conformity. They have this tulpa thing. It looks like swamp thing that comes and kills the people. It's made up of all the this tulpa is like this. I think its body is made up of all the tacky stuff that the other or the lawn clippings. It's really it's a silly episode. It's supposed to be funny, and but it's just like that kind of thing. The whole idea of it's like this that collectivist type thing. Or the movie Hot Fuzz. You see that movie?
Hot Fuzz,
Yeah, Hot Fuzz.
the
It
the
was
little detective show. It was like a comedy
no, it was a
about
movie.
the
The guy's a
about it's a village and there's all these murders.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There's all for and there. It's like a cult of the HOA group. Basically, there's like doing it for the common good. They say they get rid of anything that's like outside the thing. It's that collectivist type mentality, and
Yeah, it's
it's
very like
funny.
the individual has no value, or it's subordinated to this group, these abstract group ideals that are very unspoken, very nonverbal. Um, like I said, people have a lot of social anxiety up here. Like, are they doing what they're supposed to be doing at any given moment? And that's so strange to me because
Yeah,
what I'm supposed to be doing at any given moment is what I decide I should be doing, like what I determine to be doing. I'm an adult, a self-determining, autonomous adult. Someone tried to explain it to me this way, that the word safety keeps coming up, like it's all for purposes of safety and keeping the most vulnerable safe or included somehow.
right.
That the safety comes from the trust that everybody will follow the group structure or protocol that's laid out, and the agreement to follow it creates the safety, that's what allows people to trust in the group and rely on it for that safety. I don't have the same safety needs to begin with, so I don't need this collectivist structure to make me feel safe.
And it used to be in a situation like that. It was usually they were trying to protect children or something like that. They don't care about children. They
It's
care about the black and brown people or the trans people or whatever it is. It's always like some minority, like
it's any excuse. It's any excuse to be a white knight, but it's any group that's perceived as vulnerable. And I'll give you an example. There's this taboo against touch. I'm from the South. We touch and hug and shake hands, and we're very free with it. And nobody has an issue with it. It makes me feel included to be hugged and stuff. Here, they act like it's sexual assault if you even attempt to hug somebody, and you have to get consent to touch somebody. So everyone's constantly, can I hug you? Can I touch you? And I was told it's because some people have been sexually abused. And then they said in 99% of the cases, it's probably fine, but you'll meet that 1% that might have some sexual abuse. So the whole culture is norm to the 1% of people that might be sexually abused, instead of the 99% people that it's natural and normal to hug each other. So they elevate the most vulnerable or whatever group they're trying to protect and be hero to over the needs of the like statistical norm or the basic human nature, which to me would want to hug and be touched, and they stigmatize all that instead. I'm thinking if you're that 1% that person that's sexually abused and you're a grown adult, you probably know by now how to tell people not to touch. You don't need the collective to babysit your ability to be touched or not. Like, why can't you self-manage that on your own?
Yeah,
Why does 99 people have to not hug each other for this one person that somehow doesn't know how to communicate not to touch them.
Right, and like you can tell when someone's going to hug you or something, right? Usually, I mean, I guess I guess you could argue, and I don't agree with this. So I'm saying I guess you could argue that touch can be spontaneous, like a touch on the shoulder or something that can be spontaneous, and there isn't really much way to communicate. You don't. But then again, if someone just gets lightly touched, what's wrong with them just saying like, "Hey, please don't touch me. I have like a thing or something." You know,
Nothing.
it's like that's so
If you're that sensitive
traumatizing.
to
Is it so
touch, just don't
traumatizing?
leave your house.
Right, exactly. Yeah, being agoraphobic, right? I mean, I understand why that's not a, but it's only in certain circumstances with people like that tend to actually get like upset about it, because if you go out into society at all and you like maneuver through a city, I mean, I'm sure a city like Seattle or something like it's public transportation, stuff like that. If you ride a bus, the chances of you not getting brushed up against somebody or something like that are very, very small. So how do you even exist? Like, how do you even like manage to exist in society? Because like chances are, if you're in a public space, you're gonna run in. Someone's gonna like actually run into you or something. They're not necessarily trying to touch you, but you will get touched. So do you accuse all those people of sexual assault? I mean, some of them do, I'm sure, but like a lot of them only will complain when it's a scenario or in a situation where they know they can get away with complaining about it, and people will
Yeah.
pay attention to it.
Yes. Yes. It empowers the.
Yeah.
It empowers people. Like once you empower them to manipulate or exploit that position, they will do it, and they will power test to see how much more they can get away with each time.
Yeah. It's just like a baby that that if you
It,
teach it early on that like if it cries a certain way or it does a certain thing to get something it wants, it will continue doing that for everything. And unless you push back on that, it will eventually just be a spoiled brat that won't listen to anything, or because it knows if it cries enough, it will get what it wants. And that's what a lot of these people have been taught. Yeah, that if they cry enough, eventually people will give them whatever they want. And it's a really terrible way. It's a terrible way to raise a child, and it's a terrible way to raise a society. That's for sure.
it just doesn't seem very adult. It's like nobody's allowed to be an adult. You always need the group or the nanny state to manage you
Oh yeah, they don't. They
because
aren't
you're not
adults.
capable of knowing on your own when to touch or when to talk or this or that. You need it monitored by the group.
Yeah, they aren't adults. That's for sure. I mean, like I mean, that's been like it's been like that for a long time. It's just that they've been able to weaponize their infantilism. You know, it's just really crazy that we've gotten society to the point where people can weaponize it so easily now. Like they weaponize what we call it, the victim hierarchy kind of thing.
The
The
oppression
the
pyramid.
oppression hierarchy, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And like another thing they do, this came up too, is they have all these rules about po- they call it power differential, and I've seen this in workplaces, and in some workplaces it kind of makes sense, but you're not allowed to date. Like if you're a staff person,
Yeah.
even after the weekend's over, you're not allowed to date one of the attendees or even do business with them. So like if you're a therapist, you're not allowed to have them as a client. And the way they explain it, it's a power differential. Adults can determine that for themselves. I don't need people monitoring. If two people want to date, that's their business. The collective does not need to be involved in adult decisions to date or to do business. And it's not like on the weekend, don't date them. But after the weekend is over, there's no power differential anymore. You're not staff anymore. They're not an attendee anymore. But they carry
Yeah.
it for like, I don't know, like 6 months to a year. You can't date or do business with a person that you're in a power differential with. This is not even a paid organization. Like nobody's getting paid. It's just rules that to me are unnecessary.
Oh yeah, that's really unnecessary. I mean, it's one thing whenever places of business try to stipulate or try to discourage inter office dating. I get it. It's going to happen anyway, and most places will be okay with it because of the fact they know it's going to happen anyway. But still, I do think it's generally a bad idea to date coworkers. But sometimes that's your only real social place, and you meet people, in your workplace that you are interested in. People get together, and it just happens. But like the camp thing, like the weekend, like you can't date a someone who's like a counselor or something like that, even though you're not the camp's over. I mean, that's just ridiculous. It's not like you're going back to the camp next week or something. That's just that's weird. That's really strange.
I know
It's like they think that the power dynamic is gonna like, but you can only imagine that the
and
reason that it's like that is because at some point somebody dated somebody who was a counselor there and they had a breakup, and then the one person went on a big tirade about how it wasn't fair. They had they had power over me because of blah blah blah, and so they put this thing in place because they listened to someone who whined instead of just ignoring them.
it's
Is what
again,
you got to do.
it's protecting people that apparently can't speak up for themselves. It's
Right.
like if I'm in a power differential, whatever, and I choose to date, the assumption is I can't protect myself. I don't know enough or better not to. I need the group to look out for me and step in and protect me from myself. That's so infantilizing to me and paternalistic.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really infantilizing. I mean, we have an infantilized like society in so many places, though. All of the leftists, like just like we were saying last night, it's very matriarchal. It's very like it's a very feminized kind of idea. Not that I think that feminization is always bad, but whenever it
I
comes,
think it's always bad if you're not a woman. Like I don't try to go masculinize women. Don't come and try to feminize me.
right. I just mean it's always a bad idea for any kind of societal group or community to be oriented towards specifically only towards one direction like that, especially unfortunately the matriarchal types, because it tends to be this thing where everyone's needs must be met at all times, and there can't be any chance of anybody being upset or hurt by anything. Like we can't let anyone be adults because they're all children. They all must be mothered, right? Everyone must be mothered, and everyone's mothering each other, even though really it's
Mother.
like whoever's in charge is really the mother of the thing. That's what everyone must be, and that means everyone must be treated exactly the same. No one can ever have any differences, and that means if one person can't doesn't like whatever doesn't like being touched or something, that means no one can be touched.
Yes, exactly. Yes. You got it.
Lowest common
So
denominator. Yeah.
that's what I've been dealing with for the past 15 years.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very, very frustrating. Especially frustrating because it usually happens to groups and communities that I tend to gravitate towards too, like artists and musicians and stuff like that. A lot of times, those kind of artist and musician type communities are the ones that turn like that the hardest, and like those are the places like I usually want to be. And
What?
I don't know.
Why are they so vulnerable to that? What causes them to turn?
I just think people that are generally
Because to
speaking.
me, the more creative, like they would want that creative freedom to be artistic. So it
Well, I
seems
certainly do. But artists in general tend to be more empathetic, and when you are empathetic, there's this wrong-headed thing you have when you have empathy for people, that there's this wrong-headed thing that happens where people think that, well, I do feel bad for that person. I feel bad for, like, so you try to cater to them instead of treating them like an adult and maybe even helping them get through whatever trauma or whatever it is they have. I mean, it's not, coddling people doesn't work. It just keeps them in an infantilized state. Whereas
yes,
if you treat them like adults, they usually will rise to the occasion. And if they just want to whine and cry about it, they're probably not ready for any kind of social interaction in the first place. They probably
right,
like,
and it
yeah,
keeps them in that state. I've been saying
yeah,
that forever. I even put that chart up of the levels of self determination and
yeah.
the it. Yes, and they do it in the mental health system. Like everything is trauma informed and safe, and uh, the groups I'm in, you don't get to grow. Like if you're stuck in that level of safety, you never get to grow beyond it because the entire structure is set up to not allow anything to develop beyond that need for safety. It limits the ability to share. It limits your ability to express. It limits how deep you can go into. It puts limits. All it's constraints. All the way around. That there's no option to grow beyond. There's no path out of it.
Yeah, there really isn't either. There's really no way to grow out of it until people start expecting things of you. If you put no expectations on people, they have no reason to meet those expectations. I mean, people are gonna just our brains themselves, our actual brains are hardwired to look for shortcuts and things. That's just what we as human beings, that's how we've survived to some degree. It's an evolutionary thing where there's a lot of things like, it comes the same reason that, whenever we see a someone who might identify as a woman, but they clearly are a man, they look like a man. The reason why our brains don't see them and think, well, they said they're a woman, so they're a woman, is because our brains are hardwired for shortcuts. We see masculine jawlines, we see those things. We see a man, regardless of what they identify as, and that people get really mad about that sort of thing. But it's because our brains are hardwired for shortcuts, not for thinking through things. That we react and act quickly on things, and that same impulse to create shortcuts for social interactions or just basic, anything interactions, just like living interactions that we have, that same kind of thing like informs that, you know what I'm saying, right? I'm my brain just went blank on me, but I think I made myself clear. Maybe I didn't. Sorry, I'm having one of those days with the vertigo and stuff like that. It's making it really hard to think.
Oh, well, you're doing pretty good.
Yeah, I was doing good for a minute there, but then I completely lost track of what I was saying, and I just lost it entirely. I was talking about shortcuts, but I don't remember why I was talking about shortcuts anymore. And
How the
so,
human being takes shortcuts.
yeah, I just don't know what got me to that. I don't remember where that came from.
Like about growing beyond the safety and
Oh,
meeting
right.
challenges
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
stimulation.
it's yeah, I don't remember the exact jumping off point, but I was just saying that yeah, people don't look for ways to challenge themselves generally. I mean, some people do. I think people like yourself, myself, and others, we do occasionally, but generally speaking, most people aren't going to challenge themselves with something until someone else challenges them with it, you know? And those challenges be presented positively and they can be fun for people to do. Like they are usually for me, I like being challenged intellectually or even like, at a skill or something like that. I'm not a very competitive person, like on a day to day basis, but if you put me in like a class, like I took a bartending class once and like I got very very hyper competitive about being the best at being the top of that class, and I did I managed to do that, but I got a perfect score on my final exam and stuff like that, and but like I don't know, even if no one's directly competing with me, like it's like competing with yourself kind of, but a lot of
Mhm.
people don't. A lot of people, like if they're not challenged, they have no reason to push themselves outside those boundaries. So like, why would they? It's safe there. They're comfortable. They don't. Nothing's pushing them outside their comfort zone. So unless someone comes along and gives them a reason to push them outside of that, and look how I mean, it's a common trope in stories for God's sakes. Like we see this all the time. There's so many stories about someone who's stuck in a stagnant position, and then they meet a guy or a girl that pushes them out of their comfort zone and teaches them about the world, kind of thing. It's a common trope that we have in society, and yet no one really wants it to happen to them. Instead of these people, if they were the character in that movie, they would meet that manic pixie dream girl or guy, and they would immediately run away from them, and the movie would never happen. Those stories would never happen to those people. There would be no romantic comedies in those people's world because like that person didn't properly gain consent forms and everything before they asked to kiss them or something like that. Like spontaneous moments of human interaction in life, things that make life worth living. I think to many people's minds, they don't happen in a world where everything is contracted and written down and explicit
Right.
permission is given in every situation. And I'm not saying that we need a world where it's okay for people just to like grope people or something like that. But no one's trying to do that in most of these cases. It's like someone gets groped, like someone like grabs someone else's behind, and so now no touching at all, right? It's ridiculous. You can specify that no, you are not allowed to like grab someone's boob or something. You're not allowed to do that without getting rid of touch entirely. I think that's ridiculous. I mean, a lot of these people need to be touched. That's like the thing they probably need more than anything. The fact they're scared of it just shows that.
Spontaneity is exactly. There's a big aversion towards spontaneity for some reason. They like absolute predictability. It's very technocratic. I mean, this is a technocratic culture. It's Microsoft, Amazon, big tech, and they want everything ordered, predictable. They want it like a computer process.
I'm not really sure, like, if it's the mentality, the communist socialist leaning mentality that leads to that, or if it's the collectivist mentality that leads to collectivist or communism, socialism. I'm not sure which, the chicken or the egg situation there, but like one of those two things is bound to be the leading cause for the other one. You know, you
Like,
wouldn't think. Hmm?
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I was saying going to say that you wouldn't think that people in Microsoft and tech companies, you think they would be looking for people because their whole, those companies, their whole thing was being disruptors, right? Yeah,
No, they're not.
Twitter
I
or
know,
whatever.
but once you disrupt, then you settle it. Like to
Right, right,
stable. Once you stabilize to maintain your dominance, you
right.
become ossified, like the Catholic Church.
Yeah, they only want to disrupt. They only want to be disruptors when it started. And I saw this happen in Amazon when I worked there. When I started working at Amazon, they had a bunch of principles and tenets that they followed, and a few of those tenets like went away over time. And they were always the ones that were, one of the big tenets was that they always wanted. I can't remember exactly how they phrased it, but basically the gist of it was that they were always supposed to welcome someone to disagree with the leadership or something. Like they always were encouraging people to disagree and commit. I think that was the actual principle: disagree and commit. In the time I worked there, that principle just went away. They decided they didn't actually like that one anymore. That it was good in the beginning when they were trying to disrupt the market, but now that they were on top, no disagreement, no committing to that disagreement, just the commit part, but not the disagreement part.
Well, if collectivism is a form of authoritarianism, then you have the authoritarian temperament. So it probably is this innate. There probably is an innate temperament, but then that doesn't explain the proportion of collectivism up here. Like not all 90% of this culture is going to have that temperament. So some of it's got to be cultural, and it's also heavily introverted too. So the ratio of collectivists, introverts, feminized values is like, it feels like it's 90-10 at least, and so that can't all be explained biologically. There's got to be a cultural
Oh,
influence or
there's
shaping
definitely a
factor,
cultural part of it. Yeah, I don't know. I
which
think it's
doesn't
just like
sound healthy because you have to. If that's not your innate temperament, then you're suppressing an awful lot
well, they
in service
started
to this
they
culture.
they started doing, I think in the 80s is when like they started doing like elementary schools and daycares and stuff with those kind of mentalities, like the where everyone is treated equally type thing, when participation trophies, stuff like that never seems happening. Everybody gets, nobody, there's no winners or losers with games, everyone wins. That kind of mentality started, in like grade schools and elementary
Did
schools. I
you
mean, the
have it
same thing.
growing up?
No, I was homeschooled though, so
Oh,
my parents were very individualist. Despite the fact that they're conservative Christians, they still taught me to be an individualist and think for myself. I think homeschooling in general teaches you to think for yourself. You do a lot of self-guided learning. You don't really have like you don't have a teacher that's telling you everything. You have books, and my mom was there to kind of direct me on what I needed to do for the day, what I needed to do to accomplish my goals for the day. But like it wasn't. It was very self-deterministic. So a lot of these people, like, they are given explicit instructions on everything they need to do and everything they need to learn and what they need to do to meet those goals. And over time they took out that last part where it was about how hard you tried, not how, and there are situations where someone really does try their best or whatever, and like they don't need to be necessarily admonished for it. They don't need to be like shamed for it, but they don't need to be celebrated for it either.
yeah.
There's nothing wrong
I don't
with
want to
like,
be celebrated for mediocrity either.
yeah, exactly. I don't either. Like, I mean, but they don't even like those people like that. Don't even like the term or the idea of mediocrity. They don't like the idea that there's ever a hierarchy. That's the reason why they all
That's
lose
it's
their.
just unrealistic. They're so out of touch with human like human reality, human
Yeah,
existence.
that's why they all lose their minds about Jordan Peterson. That's what they hate about him. Is because he reinforces concepts about things like hierarchies.
Oh, the
And
lobsters.
yeah, the lobster thing or whatever. That's why they make fun of him for that all the time. They love to like. There's so many leftists out there that have made entire videos about how ridiculous Jordan Peterson is because hierarchies are evil. And that's the reason they call him a Nazi and shit like that, because the fact that he believes that there's such a thing as a hierarchy in society, and they
Well, there
cannot
is.
stand that. Of course
If
there is.
everywhere you look, you're going to find power differentials, competence hierarchies, dominance hierarchies.
At the same time, he's also the guy that goes out of his way to tell people that he believes that hierarchies exist, but he also believes that they aren't the end all be all of society, and also that he does not believe that healthy societies function on the concept that that power is the primary thing that motivates society. Patty says, once I got a improved award for most improved, and it meant something. I mean,
What does
I'm
he
not.
say motivates us? What does he say is the primary
He says
motivator?
cooperation is the main like engine of society, of a good society, and not this idea that everything's predicated on power. He's saying that he says that that's what the leftists constantly are saying, that everything is about power, but
Oh yeah,
at the same time, they're not
they
necessarily
don't have
trying
any.
to they're not necessarily trying to destroy the power hierarchy. They just want to install their people into the higher regimes. They're not trying to get rid of the hierarchy. They totally believe in hierarchies.
Yeah,
They
I
just want to
mean
be the one in control of it.
yeah the wokeness is an inverted hierarchy with the white straight Christian males on the bottom.
Right. And I don't think our hierarchy should be based on race or belief systems or anything like that either. But in terms of being a meritocracy, like our if our hierarchies are based on people, and there's different hierarchies for every other thing, just because like someone is really good at math doesn't mean they should also be at the top of the pyramid for for science or engineering or whatever. A mathematician can be the best mathematician, and it doesn't have to affect anything else. But they see any hierarchy that doesn't have them at the top of it, and they want to topple it. And
It's
with
just
the
childish.
yeah, they basically they want to flip the table. They want to knock the game over all the pieces on the table until everybody else that was at them go home. Then they can set the game back up, and where they get to play both sides of it. That's what they want. They want everyone else to go home.
That sounds boring. Like their
It
game
does.
sounds so boring. And hierarchies can be fluid too. They're fluid and contextual. They don't have to be rigid, but they certainly
Absolutely.
exist.
Yeah, it's ridiculous that anyone I can't even imagine anyone arguing that they aren't, but they do. That they're like, because in their view, the white straight male is always on top, and anyone else is oppressed by them. So I don't know about you, but I know I'm personally not oppressing anyone right now. I'm at the bottom of the social
I hope I
hierarchy.
am. I really hope I am.
You hope you are.
Yeah. Or I hope someone feels oppressed by my existence. Patty got an award for most improved. She said that meant something.
Yeah, no, it's
Well,
what it
that shows progress, though. That's not celebrating mediocre effort. That's
That's
celebrating
not.
progress, which is accomplishment.
I agree. I don't think there's anything wrong with like celebrating or giving a kid praise for improving, even if they're not the best at it. If they go from being the worst at it to being the middle of the road at it, like in that's totally worthy of like saying like, hey, you did really good. You're getting a lot better. That's improvement. It's still now if you say like, hey, you don't need to try anymore because you've improved so much. Now you're in the middle. You don't need to get any better. That's the problem. Is like, yeah, there's something wrong. You want to celebrate the improvement. You want to keep improving, encouraging them to improve even more. And after you get out of like grade school and high school and stuff like that, then you can start kind of deciding the things that you want to get really good at. But because like like I never really wanted to be like the best at like playing guitar or anything like that. I never had I mean, I can play guitar pretty well, and I do get better over time. But it's never been my goal to become like an amazing guitar player, and that's fine. I don't need to be the absolute best guitar player. I still try to get better at it though. I still try to improve anything I'm doing. I want to do it better over time. Even something as simple as this, just coming on stream and talking, I try to be better at it. Every time I do it,
Yeah.
I want to be a better streamer. I want to be more interesting. I want to have better things to say. Even if that improvement seems minuscule to other people, for me, I have to challenge myself. I want to be a better dad, a better husband, a better man, a better every day. I want to try to improve myself. And even though I've got lots of things that I feel like knock me down and stuff like that, doesn't mean you stop trying. Just, it would be like if I was just like, well, I'll never get anywhere. I mean, I'm still trying to do everything I can to improve myself, even though I had to fight to get this like, hospital insurance thing and everything so I can get back to the doctor. So I mean, I'm making improvement. I'm taking steps forward, even if it's slow. It's still progress, and progress is that's what I hate. The fact that these people have taken the term progressive, because I think there's nothing wrong in the concept of the word progressive. It puts in mind when you hear progressive, it's about someone who believes in constant human progress, is what you would think. It's just not what it means at all in today's day. I hate when they take words like that, because it like based on like what it sounds like the word means, I would think that I would be a progressive, because I do believe in everything progressing, even if it's slowly, but it's just about every single person getting better in their lives, whatever. As long as everyone's making progress, I think that's good. It's when everyone settles and just decides that this is as far as they're going, kind of thing. You might, I mean, what's the point of even living after that if you're not still trying anymore? Like, I mean, I mean, I'm not saying I think people should end themselves or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, but why wouldn't you try? I don't know.
Well, yeah, I think like gay marriage was progress. I watched that progress happen.
Definitely.
The stuff currently, it doesn't seem like progress. We're regressing. Like going from colorblindness to seeing race, all of a sudden that's not progress. Colorblindness was progress.
Yeah.
Now we're
Definitely.
regressing.
I grew up in that really colorblind mentality, and that's the reason I have had um, so many just like good friendships and relationships with people from different races, different beliefs and backgrounds, because I grew up with that belief that a person is who they are individually, not the labels they wear or their skin color or anything like that. But no, everybody today is like, no, you must always recognize the skin color and treat people, that have been oppressed in the past with more
Racist to not
reverence.
see
And
race.
yeah,
To look past race is racist.
yeah, it's ridiculous. It's such a sneaky trick they pulled too, right? Because like I mean, I grew up with like that constant thing of like, they aren't black people, they're African Americans or whatever. And then like at some point, I don't even know when that changed. I think I ended up saying African American for long after it was considered kosher, because like I just didn't know. And until somebody was like, oh yeah, we just say black now, and I was like, really? Like, was there a memo? I mean, like I grew up with that was the vernacular. and and then over time it became like, no, you're not supposed to ignore someone's skin color. You're supposed to be hyper aware of it and make sure you don't do anything to like, I think the only rule you really to follow when I was growing up when it came to black people or whatever was you just didn't use the N-word, and that was it. That was pretty much the only thing you had to, and that's the only thing the only rule I really followed. And it is still hyper bad in society if you do that. Dear God, you can't even say it in a clinical contextual manner, because like,
You
they'll
can't
fucking
even
like
repeat,
burn
like
you.
you can't even like sing a rap song if
No,
it's in there.
no, definitely not. No, you're. Oh,
Look
hey,
who's here.
what's up, Neuro?
It's our
Jack or
Hello.
old
whatever.
friend
Hello,
Glowie.
man.
What's up?
I just wanted to join the racist, bigot, homophobe, fest that you guys are.
Hell yeah, hell yeah.
Oh yeah.
You guys are
Yeah.
oppressing by existing. I just wanted you to know.
Oh good. That's what I was hoping
Good.
for.
I'm really glad that that's working for you.
I'm glad there's someone below me somewhere.
Yeah, I feel very oppressed, even as a white.
Because
So
you're white, Christian, straight. You're all of them, right? You hit all the boxes.
I'm the most oppressed now.
Yeah, you're as oppressed as they come.
Well,
But I'm oppressor at the same.
And you're heteronormative. You have nuclear family. All of that. Everything they hate.
Yeah, I even have a little extended family. So I'm like the. But I'm also oppressed at the same time. So I'm both the oppressed and the oppressed. I get to enjoy both.
Everybody is really like nobody's truly at the bottom of a hierarchy. You'd have to look really hard to find that one person that's truly at the bottom. And none of us are at the top. So we're all like somewhere on the stairs. Don't
Patty
forget
said,
boring.
don't forget boring.
Ooh. Patty has her reading glasses on. So what's up? How have you been? Damn it.
You still there, Jack?
Sorry,
Oh, he's on.
I'm switching. I was switching screens, and it took a second. It was my phone's kind of slow. But yeah, I'm good. I'm just glad to hear you guys have a big conversation like this. It is really hard to talk about these topics like because like I think I'm just slightly younger than you guys, not by much, but a little bit younger. But it's just to see the shift of the conversation is so. Like you said, it's like they hijack aggressive, and then it's just gone so so sideways. I think, and it's just really difficult because like me growing up in the South, blacks and whites more or less pretty much got along pretty well. I mean, it wasn't never.
Same here. Grew up
Yeah,
in the same South. It's in the South. Same difference. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen far more division here in California than I ever saw back east.
Yep.
Me too.
South.
Seattle's the most segregated city I've ever lived in. When I got here, all the black people are in one part of town. Like you don't ever see black people anywhere else in Seattle. And in the South, they're all at the same stores and malls. They're on the street together. And here you have to go and look for a black person. It was 2 weeks before I saw my first black person in the grocery store, and I follow her around. I get nervous when I don't see black people. Like when there's no black people around for a while, being from the South, that makes me nervous.
Well, and it puts that like I describe for people who don't come to California. Like California is good in a lot of ways. I honestly think like it is a proof of concept for the melting pot in some aspects. However, it is also very much like a prison system as well. So you kind of get segregated and isolated into your little groups, regardless if you want to be or not. It's kind of like, and most of it's self-imposed. The exception seems to be in like the corporate world. Like there is a genuine melting pot, but of course, in the name of capitalism, I guess, or whatever bullshit. But still, it has, for better or worse, civilized people. And so, it is kind of this double-edged sword where it's, homogenizing people on one end, but it's also people are treating each other very well on the other side. But then you also have this kind of prison system, and it's like kind of like a mix of like a prison system, a caste system, and a melting pot all at once. And in the South, it was more just kind of and it's changing in the South based on what I've seen. But I think in general, like there's a couple towns like in very rural parts of where I grew up, where it is like black on one side and whites on the other, more or less. But regardless of that, people still treated each other with far more politeness, far more human dignity, respect than I think is here. It's like you get this like courteousness is how I would describe it, but I feel it's more like a Asian style, like just going through the motions to kind of go along to get along, not necessarily because people genuinely feel that you should treat each other with that that level of dignity and respect. And so it is very strange to see, I have to admit. And I've kind of gotten numb to it at this point, but and that's just part of it also, like the whole I mean, I have more to say on this kind of stuff on the quote unquote progressivism, but yeah, I just wanted to get your take on that.
No, I mean, let's keep talking, man. We're here to listen.
Well, and the other thing is like, like people who call themselves Christian and they're like, out here like, pointing the finger at everyone, like, oh, the gays do this and these people do this, and like, of course, the media is making everything seem much worse than it is in general, because for the most part, if you come to San Francisco, like, or anywhere or anywhere that's supposedly so extremely quote unquote liberal, I mean, the vast majority of people are just kind of normal people, including, people who are gay or trans or whatever people, point at, most of them are just kind of living their life and not really bothering anybody. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like this extreme thing. I just see, like, I'm sure you guys have seen news about the whole Israel Hamas thing, and it's like, people are just freaking out and feeling as if you have to choose a side. Christians have to join the Jays because we need to help them, and then some are saying, well, we don't like Jays, and other people are saying, well, we don't
Wait,
like.
you can't say Jew anymore? Is that it?
Well, I don't know. I just try not to. I'm
Oh,
careful for a particular reason. I think it's just I'm so used to being in these circles where people saying very offensive stuff, so I just try to redact whatever, which is not good.
okay.
It's just a habit I've developed because people just start saying bad. I know you guys won't, so I'll try not to do that. But yeah, I'm used to being in like the overtly offensive for no reason kind of people. So
Oh,
yeah,
no. You could. I say Jews or
yeah.
Israelis.
Thing I just
I mean, even the Jewish people I know call themselves Jews. I'm a Jew.
yeah, exactly. Well, but that's the thing. Like, I think this whole thing that we're seeing now is like, I'm actually optimistic for the most part. I think most average people, regardless of their background, I think most Americans overall, even including ones who just kind of showed up here, they're so happy to be in a place where people aren't literally at each other's throats that they just kind of appreciate it. And so I think most of this stuff that we're seeing, particularly within, I think kind of BS. Most Americans are not going to go and just start doing stuff like you see happening in those videos. I don't think it's in us to go and do such things without like extreme cause of some sort. And I think
Well, yeah.
Americans really should appreciate that because, like, I was talking to people from Ukraine over the weekend, and I never really talked to anybody from there before, and they were just basically saying like Putin. They kind of gave me some insight on how Putin operates, but also they were just kind of like, I don't think Ukraine should be fighting over the Crimea because I don't think that it's worth losing our family over. It's like, who cares? Let them have it. It's like, why are we going to go through this long, protracted war and just destroy and destroy our people and destroy our family? It's like, what is the point? It's like, it's just, I think most people around the world are just tired of, thousands of years of war. That's kind of my overall thing. And that's why I'm saying a lot of this drumming up of animosity, I find it's,
Despicable.
I think it's despicable, but also I think it is falling somewhat on deaf ears. I mean, maybe I'm just being overly optimistic, but I do think that people in general are not really wanting to tear down the peace that's here. I mean, maybe people are trying to change that, but I think things will have
Yeah, I agree. I don't think we're as close to civil war as some people seem to think we are. But
No, I
mean,
don't either.
But I know what you mean, do. But there are certainly people out there that want to push us towards civil war. But I don't think we as a country are nearly as close to it as your Tim Pools and such might think. I know Anton. I mean, he's a very reasonable guy. He's kind of afraid of the Civil War angle. He said that.
Paul too, I think a little bit.
Yeah, Paul too.
Maybe it's the
And-
younger generation that don't have
and
the
I
perspective.
yeah, they don't have the. I mean, it does look bad when you see how badly divided are, but you just don't. And I mean, if we were going to go into civil war, it probably would have happened during the Black Lives Matter riots that happened in every major city on this. In this, I mean, Dallas, we didn't have nobody was killed here, but we still had. Well, no one was killed here. Like there was no cop killing a black person, but we had 3 murders during the riots that happened downtown here in Dallas. One of them was like a store owner or something that got killed by militants. I mean, it happened all over the country, and that still didn't spark a fucking civil war. So if that doesn't, I don't know what it would take to really do it. It would take someone actually gaining some. It would take someone getting the military on their side to actually do a military strike on something in the country. I think the chances of that happening are very, very slim.
So Adaptable thinks it might be intentional. Why isn't my comments working? There you go. Did y'all see where BLM came out in support of Palestine?
It doesn't surprise me.
They have they put like a little parachute logo of a man parachuting, and they said, "We stand with Palestine."
I
Yeah.
stand with all the innocent lives that are being lost, but I can't stand with either side of that conflict any more than.
Well, you should here. I'm going to read this
I
tweet
mean, I'm
today.
more on Israel's side in this one because Israel was the one that was provoked this time, in my opinion.
Listen to this tweet. It's in response to the "It's Complicated" crowd. Actually, I just support Judeo-Christian Western values over Islamic terrorism every day of the week and twice on Sunday, and I don't need any other reason than that to stand with Israel. Humans are tribal, and yes, I do believe my own tribe is objectively morally superior to the others, and they believe the same of theirs. I have no problem taking a side in this at all.
It's fair. I just know that, like, like the number of children in that are Palestinian.
But that happens in any war. Like, that's just a feature of war. But that doesn't mean like anybody that goes to war is bad, and you shouldn't stand on their side just because children are involved. That's as kind of unrealistic as some of the human nature stuff on the woke side.
Well, I don't know. See, I have very conflicting feelings because, like, obviously, I'm friends with Gene Lies. He's a Muslim. And most of my, I would say, all the best neighbors that I have are Muslim. So it's like, they treat everybody with respect. They do the right thing, and also, like, I would also say this, like, the average Jew that I've met in my life has treated me, on average, more fairly and better than most Christians that I've met. So, it's kind of like one of these things where, we're kind of stuck in this thing. And this is why I talk to Machine Lies quite often, is because, he kind of breaks down the history of all these divisions and kind of where it's coming from and where it's headed towards. And I find most of what we see as religious conflict is, at least I'm just going to say my opinion is it's, totally propagandized. Like, I don't think that the average Muslim, the average Jew, the average Christian really have any good reason to be slaughtering each other. I just don't think that's the case. I don't think there's really any good reason for that. And I think obviously history has shown, like, trade and commerce and finding peaceful ways is the only sustainable way of doing things, right? So, who is pushing us to go and do such things? And like, I'll like, as an example, when I was talking to this Ukrainian that I met, they're very reasonable. They're like, I don't like Zelensky because he's pushing this war, but at the same time, like, I know what Putin's all about, and Putin is like essentially, a ruthless person who doesn't care really about any particular ideology. He's kind of just a guy on a mission for power, and he'll basically exploit people's prejudice and stuff like this. And I have a lot more thoughts that I'll probably get into it on some future streams. But essentially, it seems that people are just being played off of each other in proxy wars. Like, everything you see is a proxy war. I think that most wars that I've ever learned about are really, in essence, proxy wars for a much larger ideological or philosophical, or if you could argue, religious overtone or undertone, or whatever you call it.
Machine is streaming tonight too. What is his take on the Israel thing? I haven't talked to him yet.
I haven't really talked to him on it either. My sense of talking with him is essentially what I say, which is that, regardless of what you think about, the Palestinians versus the Jews, he thinks that it's kind of, I don't know what he thinks, but my assumption is along the lines of what I just said. There's no good reason for them to be doing what they're doing. And, well, what this Ukrainian person told me is, he said that he thinks that this this thing going on with Israel and Hamas is probably related to the whole Russian-Ukraine thing, and it's probably being provoked by Russians because he said that's kind of like their modus operandi, I guess, is to like drum up a conflict, racial, ethnic, religious, then in the midst of that, the long drawn out wars that aren't going anywhere, and use that as a pressure point for further agenda. And I mean, I think that's every good person, every good war strategy is going to be something like that. I think, but it's obviously some very high stakes right now if things really go the route that people are predicting. I like I said, I think that people in general aren't really wanting that because most of the world is getting very comfortable with the conveniences that modern life offers, and I think that a lot of these people who are trying to derail that have some other agenda, and I don't know what it is, but I don't think it's anything good. I mean, I agree with Machine that we should draw back technology, but also the reality is that the weapons of war are so sophisticated that if you don't have some sort of mutually assured destruction on opposing sides, then you're just going to stuff like what you're seeing. You're brutality as soon as one group decides that they want to grab power, and I think that it's a very careful thing that we have to kind of take a look at because I don't think that I don't think people are really prepared for something like that to happen. I mean, I don't think of myself as a coward, but I can't imagine even living through something like that. It's not something I want to see happen.
Well, and Canuck, he asked you, what is Hadith 416985 and what is Takia? And I'll probably drop by Machines later tonight, and because I want some of these answers too. But I remember, by the way, Canuck, you can come on if you want. I remember last time we talked, you were talking about the current philosophical architecture, and I had wanted to talk to you more about that. Because my philosophy really stops around the 60s with postmodernism. I haven't really followed any modern philosophy at all, so I couldn't tell you what current philosophy is influencing or structuring modern thought.
I think I meant something that's a little bit harder to describe, so I would ask you guys to kind of give me like what do you think general state of the even if it's you think it's a dated view of things, because I think mine's probably dated as well. I think we're kind of more in a cyclical than more of a linear progression, but I would just be curious to kind of hear you guys general thought about where you are philosophically in the world.
Well, I think postmodernism is probably reaching a terminus. I see things on metamodernism, but I think that's very niche right now. I don't know if it's going mainstream, and it's hard to tell because generationally, like the generations, the philosophies seem to be changing so quickly from one generation to the other. And I don't know what people are getting from TikTok, Tumblr, whatever other platforms the kids are on these days. It's hard to say. I think maybe chaos, if anything, like kind of like in the days of Hellenism when you had many competing religions, philosophies, ideologies, all existing at once and syncretizing into different new forms. So I'm trying to get a sense of what the dominant strands might be.
Almost like a philosophical version of the mathematical chaos theory. It's like a philosophy. I don't know. I mean, you said like chaos is kind of as philosophy. I was thinking like how chaos theory is usually described.
Yeah, throw up the link. Yeah,
yeah,
you can throw up the
definitely.
link.
Throw up anything you want, man. Yeah.
to a tweet.
Feel free.
I thought chaos theory was more like there's an order, a mathematical order even to chaos.
There is. I mean, but it's still, it seems chaotic. It only starts to make sense whenever you can see the entire pattern, which you can't do because we're simply too small to see it.
I think the internet, like we're still at the early stages. We haven't fully like felt the full effects of the internet uniting everyone globally and exposing each other to ideas from everyone across the world all at the same time. And I think that's new in human history, more or less, and we haven't played out the full effects of that yet. We're just starting. Like the philosophies are just starting to influence and reverberate off of each other.
How about you, Chris? What is your general thing? Because I actually I somewhat agree with Jeff actually about what he said.
I mean, I think I kind of fall for. I want to come up with something interesting and contradictory to spark conversation. But honestly, I feel the same way. I'm just
Which is
trying
to say, I don't know. My answer is I have no clue. So that's what y'all are pretty much agreeing with. We could maybe ask the AI. And let me try that. See if Chat GPT has any better idea.
That's a good idea, actually. But while you do that, I'll briefly try to qualify, because it's something like I need long drawn out discussions to really formulate these kind of ideas, because sometimes people say something and it kind of sparks a kind of connection that I didn't really have before. But I think that we're coming into so much information and awareness that the old structures that bound people together, as bad and as good as they were, are being, like you said. And again, it's like one of these things why I like talking to machine as so much is because, I like to look at something like a neuromancer, where it's about something totally unrelated, AI being fractured into many personalities. I think that's kind of what with the philosophies. It's like philosophies have all been fractured, and like you said, I think they're gonna be broken apart and reformulated into new things. Although I think those underpinnings are kind of being both better exposed to those like us who are looking for them, but also better obscured from those who aren't looking for them. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, all this information is, and connection is both a curse and a blessing in some ways. And I think overall, from from a material standpoint, I think it's all good. But I think from a spiritual standpoint, very dubious, to say the least.
Well, we'll have to talk about what you mean by spiritual too. This is what ChatGPT gave me, and for some reason, I'm not getting the regenerate option. Postmodernism, existentialism, utilitarianism and consequentialism, environmental ethics, feminism, neuroethics, ethical AI and technology, and cultural and identity studies. I don't see anything about religion.
But those are the new religions.
Well, but I would add the traditional religions, I think, are still in tension with all of this as well.
Yeah, I don't think it's a coincidence. It doesn't mention religion. It doesn't. The AI does not believe in God, so
Well, I think kind of what I was referring to as well. Like, I think the here. I mean, I don't have. I'm not very good at holding things back. Kind of say.
Sure. Go ahead.
But I think overall there's a lot of flaws among the of every major religion. I mean, that's why I've always said I'm a Christian, but 99% of Christians are not going to agree with me, because I take more of a overall try to comprehend what's really going on. And that unfortunately, most Christians, they don't want to go back and look at before Christ. They don't want to really try to understand what Judaism is, what Gnosticism is, what Islam is, what philosophy really is. what metaphysics, they don't want to look at it to say, well, I don't need to know that to say, so it's a waste of time. And it's like, well, those are all tools in a toolkit, and if you're not even interested to understand them, then they can be used against you, right? So that's kind of the way I look. I think that all these tools are deployed against people to control them, but I don't think it's purely control. I think it's more about management. I think humans have been managed, you know, in good ways in some ways and bad ways in others. But I think that Christianity to me means individuals having some sort of choice in the matter. But for me, seeing so many Christians who are just not interested in expressing or cultivating their ability to choose, I don't know how you can be a Christian and live your life in such a path. But I guess that's where I differ from a lot of Christians. But
Well, flawed in what way? Like it, correspondence to reality, or ethically flawed, or conceptually inconsistent?
I don't remember you were flawed. What did I say?
You said like all religions are flawed in some way or another, and I'm trying to figure out what you meant, like what areas they were flawed.
Well, let's just take Christianity because I'm the most familiar with that. I think that most Christians have been given a very particular interpretation. It's kind of like I'll put it in a different sense back together. Like if you look at the legal system, right? The law in general, I think, is actually pretty fair, but it's in the interpretation of the law which you can get either something that's actually in the realm of justice, something that bastardizes justice. And I think it's the same with a lot of religion. I think if you carefully look at a lot of what people base Christianity on, I think a lot of it is moral, and it's hard to argue with. But unfortunately, it can be twisted. I mean, like even in the Christian Bible, I mean, they talk about the devil. These scriptures are against you if you're not careful in your understanding of it, right? And he even almost tricked Jesus, right? So it's one of these things like, the truth is a hammer, and you can either use it to build something, use it to bash someone's head in, or use it against you, right? So it's not just a thing that's completely obvious. I don't think that. And people, a lot of Christians say, well, Jesus is the truth. It's like, yes, but people invoke Jesus for evil all the time. So
they definitely
was as a statement as that.
The Crusades.
I think you're breaking up a little bit.
Yeah, you are breaking up a little bit. But I still understood what you meant, though.
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know if it's.
Can I add something for some perspective, perhaps?
Sure. Of course, Sean. Go ahead.
This is going to sound really silly. And Glowie, hello, I don't know you. We haven't met. Please don't misconstrue any of this as a personal attack or a slight. I don't mean it that way. But let's imagine that you put an ant in front of a high definition TV screen, and you threw on a TV show. The ant is really only capable of sensing light and heat and a few other things from that TV. It would literally be incapable because of its nervous system and the complexity of the organism itself. And if there's any spirit within that organism, perhaps there's a corresponding complexity of the spirit in a relatively in non-complex ant body. It literally wouldn't be able, it could not, it is inconceivable for it to understand a TV show or a commercial or anything like that. So it's no fault of the ant, but it is literally beyond its ability to understand what's being displayed on that TV. Now, you talk about food to an ant, and you tell it about an Oreo McFlurry from your local Dairy Queen, and it will literally have no understanding of what that's not food. What are you talking? You take the animal nourishing liquids from another creature that is not even of your own species, and you mix it together with chemicals. That's not food. I'm talking about food. There's literally no overlap there. So in any human religion, any person that pretends to be a religious scholar, someone who's spiritual, enlightened, this, that, if they tell you, and they may be sincere and they may be authentic in that sincerity, that they know anything about the mind of God or gods or heaven or the nature of the universe, it's literally not possible. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't endeavor to explore those things. The journey is the reward in and of itself. I can't imagine what a billion stars are, but there's hundreds of billions of them just in this galaxy, and hundreds of billions of galaxies. Like it's literally inconceivable. I have no frame of reference as a mammal, as a human being in the 20th century, to understand the meaning of the word billion. Right. So
Right.
that's all I want to say.
Like a kind of similar to the flatland thing, right? You know, the idea that a two-dimensional.
Similar, yeah,
a
similar. I
two-dimensional
was a lot
creature.
more wordy.
Well,
I was just trying to make sure I understood what you were getting at.
yeah. Can you rephrase what you mean? Just not because it's wrong. I just didn't fully understand your implication. Sorry.
Anyone that actually honestly tries to explain to anyone else that I've discovered the truth of religion or philosophy or God's will or this is what God means, it's not possible. That's what I'm saying. It is impossible. It is impossible for a human mind to encompass what we think an anthropological God might be like. It is not possible. It's more possible for that ant to make sense of a TV show, which it couldn't do simply because of its nervous system and its physiology, and it's the scale of its world exists in terms of pheromones and hierarchy, and it's not possible. It's not even imaginable. It is so outside the realm of possibility. It's a masturbatory thought exercise. Same thing with anyone who, even if they're sincere, they tell you they know the mind of God or God revealed himself. It's literally impossible. That's what I'm saying. Now, they could
Well,
still be
religious
sincere.
people would disagree.
Yes,
and
they would.
say
And that's okay.
revelation. It's possible through revelation.
They may do that, but at the same time, if someone honestly, sincerely, genuinely, and you believe there's no malice in their heart, if they tell you that their dog talked to them, and they're not being cute by saying I read his body language, their dog talks to them and only they can hear it, you'd look at that person, no matter who or what they were, and smile and be polite and kind of nod your head and move on with life, because they literally are explaining something so totally outside your realm of possibility. All you can really do is absolutely cut them out of your life, and you don't want to be an inhuman monster and do that. You just kind of nod and pat their head metaphorically, and you let them go about their life until they become an existential threat to you by telling you you have to talk to the dog too, or else.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, and generally, I mean, I don't know that I really disagree with what you're saying. I think my understanding of Christianity in general as well is like, there's not really much you can know about what reality is. I mean, we have science and we have some other, methods of trying to deduce things, including, philosophy and some of what's written in the scriptures, I think is actually quite, you can deduce quite a lot about reality from it, because it's not really, I don't think most of the scripture is meant to be literal in the sense that we use the word literal. I think it's meant to be, a narrative that explains how people can relate to the reality that we're in. You know what I mean? But I'm not the best at using technical terms and stuff, so I'm not going to try to.
We all know the story of the boy who cried wolf, right? You can't explain to a 4-year-old, if you tell a lie and people believe you, that means everyone has to stop what they're doing. But the kid is looking at a bumblebee by the time you're even done that sentence. So you tell them a compressed version of the story. Don't lie, it has bad consequences. The boy who cried wolf. That level of metaphor and symbolism is kind of coded into the spiritual teachings of every religion on earth, right? I'm sure you all know someone in life who you've tried to reason with on a matter that they just don't get, just like a math problem or a language. They just don't fucking get it. Why can't they get it? You can get it. Why don't they get it? But we've all been kind of in that spot as well. So we tell compressed myths and stories. Why shouldn't I take Gugok wife? I like Gugok wife. It's because you don't covet your neighbor's wife, because it's evolutionary disadvantageous to the harmony of the tribe, and you'll put everyone in danger. Now shut the fuck up and get in line and don't think about Gugok's wife. Right? Caveman times.
Yeah, yeah, and in general, I agree, and I think, and again, like I think that there is something spiritual and supernatural, to the sense that we can't really ascertain what's going on. But yeah, I also think that anyone who's dealt with the average people knows that what you're saying is also true. Like there has to be,
I think there's something there as well too. I used to be a materialist atheist. I'm not anymore. I don't want to inhabit a label because I think that's too restricting. I just want to talk and too adaptable there. I'm quite happy to engage with an honest and authentic query. I don't think, although I appreciate the question, I don't know if you're being sincere or not. I don't know if you're trolling.
Adaptable's a
But
pretty
if
good guy. I
No,
don't
I
think
think
he's
he is.
Yeah, he's sincere.
I'll ask it sincerely. How do you know? Like, your whole metaphor relies on you knowing, having access to what an ant's experience is like.
No, it doesn't. It relies on you being able to kind of sense the point I'm trying to make, in that there's an almost not worth talking about it, irreducible discongruousness between the complexity of the sense mechanisms and the neural network that is in an ant. And if there's something spiritual there too, there's probably a concordance between the complexity of those things. I can use my senses to examine what an ant is capable of. Does it have an endocrine system? Does it have emotions or anything that we could think are emotions? So no, I mean the question may be genuinely meant, but it's almost to me like I know you are, but what am I kind of thing. Like think about it for a moment, and you'll see that it's really not as nonsensical as initially you might have an instinct to think it is.
And to adaptable, I don't think he was saying that it wasn't worth talking about in general. I think he just meant that, we can to some degree have a basic understanding of some lower creatures. Now, I guess we could be wrong, and an ant might be, one of the most intelligent creatures out there that perceives all these things, but it's very unlikely that that's the case. I think that's
We all have certain axioms that we take for granted, and one of the most important things in any discussion like this is to at least try to understand, or at least kind of brush up where your axiomatic differences may lie. Like there are human beings, right, who like there are siblings from the same family, same mother, same father, same socioeconomic circumstances they grow up, right? They have vastly wild differences from each other, different intellectual capabilities, emotional capabilities. Now imagine a different species, and a different species that isn't even a mammal, and a different species that doesn't even have individual identity as far as we understand what that means and exists, and what a hive is as far as we know what that means. Like come on, at least meet me halfway.
Yeah, and I wanted to also address what the Nuck was saying, because I don't know anything about the hadiths, but I tried to look up that term taqiya, and something along the lines of saying that can you tell a lie for a higher purpose or something like that, and I don't know much about that. That is an interesting question. I'm not.
It's like a 1-2 combo. Have a look at that. The question was kind of rhetorical. Have a look at what that hadith is, and realize that those Muslims, and Muslims are not monolithic. There are different sects of Islam. There are devout Muslims, and then there are some Muslims who are not necessarily devout in that they hold literally to the teachings of their religious authorities, but they may be sincere in that, culturally they're Muslim. Generally, they like the good parts of Islam. They're not going to put on a vest or take any of the more horrifying passages of the Quran, and other holy texts have horrifying passages too. the Christian holy texts, the Jewish holy texts, many others. I don't know too many others well, but those three, right? The people of the book, as Muslims would say. Yeah, find out what that hadith is, and then you can, from the shadow it casts, you can kind of figure, why would this stranger on the internet prompt me to look up this hadith, which is a horrifying hadith, and then ask me, what the hell is taqiyya? And then I'm hearing that Hamas has a brand new charter, a new, updated, softer, kinder, gentler charter. It's not the Hamas of old. They're the new Hamas. Might they be engaged in taqiyya, given that they are an offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood, which is kind of like the KKK but not inbred?
So the hadith is the one you mentioned last night about the end times won't come until all the Jews
Yeah,
are destroyed.
I have my screen sharing it there. If you want to throw up on the screen, I'm gonna read it.
Oh, okay.
Well, yeah, please. And I'll say one thing about it before you jump into the specific thing. I think that's kind of also
Machine here.
how religions and philosophies have been used to mislead people, like in the way that Christians think that Jews should be in a physical Israel. I mean, what I get from the Bible, I don't think the Bible says anything about Jews occupying a physical Israel in any sense of the word. And so I think that a lot of Christians believing that, Jews and Christians have this, unspoken, symbiotic relationship. I don't think that has anything to do with what Christianity actually is or should be. But, of course, people claim to be a Christian and then use that as some sort of justification. So that's my opinion on that. And we can look at this and see how that relates. But that's kind of what I'm saying, is I think a lot of people are operating under the auspices of saying, well, I'm a Christian and this is what needs to be done. Or I'm a this or I'm a that and this is what needs to be done. But they're being misled because they don't actually have any sort of actual grounding for what they're being told. They're just kind of taking it at face value for whatever reason there is,
Why are they selling a children's book about a tiger
I
next
know,
to
I
this?
saw that too. I know, I saw that too. It's got to be some sort of Muslim.
Why is there radical queer gender theory in our public schools?
Right.
Can we go back to that? I didn't get a chance.
Okay, yeah, sure.
I would like to understand what this is. And just so you know, like, Machine Logic says Muslims should only follow the Quran, and the Hadiths have nothing to do with actual Islam. But I just want to make that clear for anybody who's had any question about
that is certainly a take that many Muslims. It's a fair take. I'm not a Muslim. The Hadiths are basically stories about what Muhammad said and did in his life with his companions, right? Whereas the Quran is supposed to be the divinely related word of God as communicated through an angel, I think, to Muhammad.
Yeah.
The Hadiths are argued about by Islamic scholars. Different sects of Islam have different rules about jurisprudence and liturgical interpretation. This is one of the hadiths that the Muslim Brotherhood, Hamas is an offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood. They are kind of fundamentalist, revivalist Muslims. The hadiths are something they embrace as corollary material to the Quran. Experts have argued about the hadiths and discussed them, and they hold them as being valid. So Hamas, being an offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood, believes that the end times will not come if they are a devout Sunni. I believe it's Sunni. Let me look at my notes here. Where did my notes go? I forget if they're Sunni or Shia. I believe they're Sunni. Yes, the Iranians are Shiites. They're Sunni. They believe the end times, right? They're apocalyptic or millenarian or messianic Muslims. Some of them. They believe the end of the world will not be ushered in until this happens.
Well, and I'm gonna say some stuff that I was gonna try to hold back, and I'll probably repeat it many times. So, forgive me for repeating myself. But this is also the thing that I see going on within the United States and among quote unquote white people and quote unquote Christians and these and this kind of, and also among atheists who are of a certain supposedly conservative slant, where kind of let's adopt um, the aesthetics and ideas from a certain mean Mr. Mustache from the early 20th century, because he was against and he was against this, and I think that for a while there was comedy used to soften people to such an idea, and I see that it's really taken hold in the past 10 years, and I think that's what we saw with the alt-right. And you see with a lot of these groups where they kind of adopt this kind of LARP, I would call it a LARP, where they think that, we need to also do something similar to what the Hadith says, and that there's some sort of, underlying justification for such a thing. But of course, my personal opinion, these people are being tricked into taking on such a stance that is actually to do with what they think it's to do with. And this is kind of this is a huge undertone to what me and Machine Lies have been talking about, and why I think we got a lot of pushback, to say the least, because I think that people do not really want the esoteric influence of where that's coming from exposed. That's kind of my opinion. But I'm trying not to say too much, because that's a complicated thing that I don't fully comprehend myself as well. So.
By the way, Machine's streaming in about 3 hours for anyone interested. I put the link in the chat. He says 5:15, but he almost never starts on time. So maybe 5:30 Pacific.
Yeah, and I know to say that just because I most people don't know who I am, probably watching the stream or anything. So I don't want to like bog them down with like trying to understand the history and everything. But the basic is, this whole like new right wing thing, I think, is a huge distraction from actual, real conservative people who, are like wanting, society to be stabilized and peace to come, and traditional values to be encapsulated somehow. I don't think that's what a lot of these people are actually have in mind. Is kind of what I think. I think they're actually trying to derail such things, but of course they don't want to tell you that, because it would make it harder to accomplish their goals, whatever they may be.
These people being the new right you're talking about?
Yeah, that's kind of my overall opinion. I think that most of what you see as the new right, I'll give you a easier version to understand. Like this whole liberal versus conservative thing, I think most people realize it's not really a real thing totally. There's some truth that there are more liberal, generally speaking, and more conservative people, but in general, the American empire is trying to preserve itself for better or worse. And I think that the left and the right kind of gives at least a pseudo discourse of conversation to play out, and take advisement into how to keep people sustained in a way where they won't revolt, but also generally try to guide them in a certain direction at the same time, right? And I think that as bad as the woke people have been with this kind of, like pseudo communist stuff, I think that was probably a way of pushing people back to the right. But I think that, whoever is guiding the new right reaction to all that actually is not really that interested in preserving stability of the American empire or any other empire, for that matter. I think that there's some sort of it's for some other purpose, and I'm not quite sure what that purpose is. But I think that destabilization of at least the American empire, if not others, is a big part of that. And I think if you go and you look at what happened to the British Empire, that'll give you a pretty good idea of what will happen if the American Empire falls. And I'm not someone who loves everything the American Empire has done, but I can tell you that I don't think the world's going to be better off if the American empire crumbles. I just don't think that's going to work out well for anyone.
I would agree with that. Especially the people in the American Empire. I think it's funny how many people in this country are just desperate for the fall of America, and they somehow they think it's gonna be better for them or something, because it doesn't seem like any of the people that want that seem to have any concept of how disastrous that will be for them. Like the people that are all pro-socialist or pro-communist that don't understand the fact that as revolutionaries they'll be the first ones against the wall. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's kind of why you're seeing a blending of communism and capitalism worldwide, because it's I don't think they're necessarily mutually exclusive in the way that most people think they are. I think you can use aspects from both to get a certain result, and these people, whoever they may be, have kind of figured out general ways of manipulating people that are not so straightforward. And again, I don't know to what end, but it seems that in general there's a struggle between stabilized society on Earth and chaos on Earth, and I don't know which side is going to win, but I certainly don't think the chaotic side is going to be very good for human being survival, in my opinion. I mean, that's just and I don't think it's going to be through some overt nuclear war or something like that. I'm not really afraid of such things. I think it's more this kind of general degeneration of what it means to be a human. Is kind of what I'm more particularly afraid of. But yeah, I want you guys to respond. I'm kind of done for the moment.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that I understand what you mean by that. I feel like fearing or being overly afraid anyway of nuclear war and something that's very similar to worrying about a super volcano exploding or a meteor hitting the earth. They're kind of like these act of God type things that even if we were to know about it in advance, we can't really do anything to stop it. So it's like fearing it seems pretty pointless. It seems like the only real reason to ever have fear in an evolutionary sense is if it can help you avoid something. There's just not much point in fearing threats that are damn near existential. So Adaptable had some more comments about he doesn't really agree with the position of saying that knowing the mind of an ant watching TV, and I think there's some good discussion to get there. I wish he'd come on, Adaptable.
You want to come on and fight about it?
I don't think he does. I mentioned it to him earlier. He didn't.
This would be a good conversation to have. Yeah, because I understand your point about knowing an ant, but the fact that that's an accurate representation of reality is just as hypothetical as that there's a God. I don't think anyone definitively settles the issue. That's just as much a perspective as any other.
I would be curious. Sorry. Oh no, go ahead. I was just gonna say I would be curious what Nohje thinks about what we were just talking about there.
Yeah, I was about to ask. Are you still there, John?
Nohje.
Yes, I am. I was just chatting with. Anyway, I was just chatting. Did someone ask me a question? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I know that about you, Adaptable. I know you're not really you're not a troll or you're not fighting. I know you're actually trying to have a conversation, man. We know.
Forgive me, Adaptable, if I seemed hostile. I didn't mean to be.
Oh, I don't think he thought so. I think he was just trying to spark conversation. So, yeah, he's a good guy. I've talked to him many times on Discord and on here. He's a good guy. So. Anyway,
so Jack, what was your question?
Oh, I was just wondering if Nohje had any response to what I said, or if Chris and you had any thoughts on what I said, because I think I was trying to condense a lot of complicated stuff into something that was manageable, but pretty sure that I failed. So
You
No.
didn't fail if you were sincere, and unfortunately, I didn't hear a lot of it because I was talking about vertigo with someone over here, and I was kind of distracted with one ear facing you guys and one
Well,
ear facing that way.
well, I'll very briefly summarize it. Essentially, I think that the new right, with the whole LARPing as a Nazi thing, is kind of similar to what you're pointing out with the Hadith, and I think that's kind of what I see as a big problem right now. Is I think that a lot of people who think that they're quote unquote fighting for the future for whites or Christians or whatever they think they're fighting for, and I think a lot of Jews are falling into this as well, actually, and obviously the Muslims as well. But I think they're all falling for the same trick, which is that they think they're fighting for one thing, but they're actually playing into a much higher level plan. In my opinion, that's kind of the gist of what I'm.
Who's executing the plan? Like who's on the other end of the plan?
It's
not a single entity.
Well, for me,
if it's a plan, though, it's got to be coordinated somehow.
Well, this is what I was saying about the whole religious flaws in interpretation. That's kind of what I was saying. Whether it's, quote unquote, people in a dark room doing it, or if it's just really bad philosophy and interpretation.
So it might not be an actual plan. It could. When you said plan, I pictured the people in a room. Dark room pulling strings.
Yeah, I think you're meaning more like how the interests of many different types of people from different walks and different positions can align to the point where the only real solution that they're looking for is going to kind of be around the same thing. So they all kind of unconspiratorially align to the same kind of goal, right?
There's nothing wrong with stating facts as facts. Of course, there's an element of open conspiracy in some of this. In other cases, there is, coincidentally or otherwise aligned interests. There are perverse interests, incentives and interests. Some of it may be natural, some of it may be emergent. It's not just one thing, and so many of us seek for just one thing answer or an easy answer. But those that say there's no element of conspiracy to this are completely ignoring human nature. Have you, in your own life, yourself, ever uttered the words or been in the presence of someone sincerely uttering the words, "Not on my watch"?
Right. Yeah.
As in, I will not allow that to happen. Not on my watch, right?
Right.
Now apply that to every strata.
Well, it's not about ignoring human nature for me, but it's about if people are going to posit a conspiracy theory, they would be able to show the conspiracy, like
not if the conspirators were good at it.
Otherwise, it's just a general speculation that there's some coordination somewhere in there. But I was looking for something more concrete. Like, is there a specific group with a specific plan that's manipulating things from behind the scenes?
Well, the World Economic Forum, they certainly
there are multiple groups with multiple plans. Think about the 5 mafia families of New York, right? Imagine no other city in the world existed but New York, right? You've got polite society, you've got working class people just wanting to get on with their life, you've got people with mental health and drug addiction problems existing in the margins, and then you have people with the get up and go to impose their will upon the world, right? If those people happen to be bad people, 1 or 2 of them, or if they just happen to not have emotions, if they're psychopathic or sociopathic or otherwise have a philosophy of will to power, if they accumulate enough resources, they impose their will upon the world. It's literally that simple. Of course, all the permutations of how they interact with each other, how they mark territory off from each other. You'll see wolf packs divvy up a forest into their own little bits of territory. Very rarely do they cross over. Occasionally they do. Borders are realigned. Weather events reduce the strength of one pack or another, or one turns on the other. It's evolutionary behavior. Some people
are
in
these
the game.
People identifiable?
I think some of them are. And there's a cloud line that I can't see above, and I'm not going to pretend to be able to see above it. I get sense impressions from what might be there. I don't think anyone we can easily point to and say, aha, that must be one of them. That's a magician's stage trick. Klaus Schwab is he looks and acts and speaks like a Bond villain for a
he
reason.
does.
For a reason, right?
Right.
Think about this. Two things. Think about two things. In the United States of America, there's a porous border. Now, honest to goodness, if the mightiest nation on earth in terms of economics and military wanted to close that border, it would be fucking airtight. So obviously, it is in someone's interest or a set of interests to have it open. Now, I can't tell you what those interests are, but simply as a matter of fact of incentives, and if the people who want it closed had the power to make that happen on their watch, that border would be closed, right? Israel, 50th anniversary of the Yom Kippur War, one of the most feared intelligence agencies on the planet, right? All adults have to serve in the military. Billions of dollars of aid from Europe and the United States of America. Their Iron Dome failed, right? Infiltrators were able to land in makeshift paragliders and launch into the country, and whammo, what was initiated happened. That doesn't feel wrong to you? Trust your gut. Don't make decisions based on your gut, but trust the input of your gut.
I want to back you up. This is kind of, and this is what I've been trying to say for the past 6 months here with Jim Bob, and then after Lies jumping over to his platform and somewhat on the Crucible, although I didn't get much of a chance. But this is kind of what I'm trying to get people in these exact terms, like these things that seem straightforward, such as the woke, the Black Lives Matter, or what you're talking about right there. Something so obvious. We'll find ways.
Oh, you're cutting out.
Yeah, we couldn't make out almost any of that.
No, I'm sorry. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I covered the microphone. Sorry about that. Basically, I just want to say that this has been what I've been trying to get people to think in this kind of level. What this guy just said, both on Jim Bob, Crucible, and then since I'm at Machine Lies, trying to do the same thing with him. Like a lot of this stuff that we think is a straightforward thing, like the Black Lives Matter or the alt right or the Ortho Bro or whatever. Take your pick. And the stuff that he just mentioned right there, I think that is like the key to what I'm talking about. Like whether it's a quote unquote plan or whatever, it's like he said, like if we wanted to close our borders, we could. If we wanted to prevent, something like what just happened in Israel, I think that it's possible. And so what I'm saying is like a lot of these things that, or like Klaus Schwab, right? Like everyone says, look at Klaus Schwab, look at Bill Gates. It's like, I think those are people and things that are being put in front of us to elicit a reaction of some sort is kind of what I'm trying to say, and again, for what purpose, to what end, I don't know, but that's kind of what I'm trying to get at as well.
I'm with you.
You mentioned the chat. You said, what's the Franklin scandal? Yeah, I remember hearing about that. It's
I happen to think that there's a lot more nefarious going on than most people are willing or able to countenance. The very idea that it could be happening, the government would tell us, the media would tell it, people would tell us. Not if they, not necessarily.
We know everything we know about Epstein. We know all these things about it, and so much of it's verifiable, and yet they're still not telling us much about it. They still kept the client, Maxwell's client list, like confidential and shit like that, even though it shouldn't be. I mean,
what is the City of London Corporation? Not the City London, but what is the City of London Corporation? That ties into Epstein.
Because you said something about that in Discord, and I looked that up. I can't remember exactly what I read now.
It ties in with Epstein. The open border on the southern U.S. border open. How many tens of thousands of children go missing? How many children are going to go missing out of Gaza? How many children go missing and are trafficked through Thailand and Ukraine and elsewhere?
And I'll mention one thing on this real quick, and I'll let you continue, please. I want you to continue what you're saying, but another thing that people don't talk about much with the Epstein thing is, and I know virtually nothing about it, but the little bit I have picked up from more nuanced sources is, he was, look at the intellectual dark web, which I kind of, was influenced by, like Stefan Molyneux as an example, and Owen Benjamin as an example. Brett Weinstein was was getting softly threatened, and he's talked about that openly.
Yeah.
Then you look at other people like Reza Georgiani, who was kind of one of the philosophers behind the alt-right. He talks about how Epstein was actually interested in like some very esoteric technological advances along the lines of genetics and some other things. And
yeah, a lot of that's verifiable too. That's not conspiracy theory stuff. That's stuff that's on record.
Right.
Correct.
And notice no one ever talks about that. And I think that's I mean, they talk about it for people like us who can comprehend what's being talked about. But for the general public, they just say, well, he was blackmailing people and stuff like that. So they don't have no problem with the general public thinking of that level of corruption. But they don't want you to, either they don't want, or the general public cannot conceive that these other higher level, functions are going on. And I think that's kind of what I'm trying to get at,
And I mean, and to a degree, I wonder myself how well the general public would handle it if they're really aware to that extent. But I mean, I still think the truth should be known. But I wonder. See, this is that revelation I came to a long time ago about people that would pretend to be world emperors. People that let's just for the sake of like not normal common nomenclature, to say like the Illuminati, if they exist, if such a thing as if there was a group, and I don't believe there is a group that calls themselves the Illuminati, and but a group that, like, if it exists, that takes that role, right, of like secret manipulators on it. If such a group exists, they don't think they're the bad guys. They think they're the good guys.
Plural
Yeah,
groups.
groups. Yes. Yeah. No, I know. I was just saying group for the sake of simplicity for this. I was just saying, like, just in this, I had this revelation that if such groups exist, they don't think they're the bad guys. They think they're doing the right thing for the right reasons, for the good of all humankind, and that's what's really scary about them. If you got a group that knows that they actually have the twirling their mustaches and going, that's a pretty easy to defeat villain. But you ever seen the movie Videodrome?
Yes.
Yeah. You know how like that's like there's that scene in it really early on where like the woman like warns James Woods' character, says like, you shouldn't get involved in this any further because these people have something much more dangerous than power. They have an ideology. Like that's
correct. But please, Chris, allow me to maybe enhance what you just said.
Yeah.
For the good of all mankind doesn't necessarily equate into that. Right?
Well,
they're apex social predators. If they have an ideology, if they are, and again, I've heard the word Satanism mentioned a couple of times here. There are Satanists, and then there are Luciferians, or whatever Luciferians are, or things like Luciferians, people who embody the concept of will to power, right? Not on my watch or on my watch. I have the means, method, opportunity to craft the future as I see fit for me and mine. I will do so. Fuck these plebs. They're disgusting, mouth-breathing, spam sandwich-eating trailer park dwellers. They're not human like I am. Fuck them. The world exists for me and mine. So it doesn't have to be for all mankind. Power and capital.
Yeah.
Capital and power.
I think that when they think of all mankind, they don't necessarily include those people. So to them, it is for all mankind. For all mankind that matters.
Fair point.
But yeah, I see what you're saying. It's not literally for all mankind, but they still, nonetheless, they believe that they are the good guys. They don't see themselves as the villain. Even if we try to conceptualize themselves like that, they think they're doing the right thing. And that's what makes them terrifying, because it's one thing to defeat someone who knows they're doing the wrong thing and does it anyway. But it's a whole other thing when people really believe that they're on the right.
Question. We've all seen a movie where there's a father and a son and a daughter and a wife sitting down in a cafe or a coffee shop, and a couple of tables over happens to be a couple of mob guys, and they have a falling out, and the mob guy beats the hell out of his buddy and starts cursing and swearing, The father stands up. You shouldn't do that in a public place with children. The mob guy walks over, smacks him in his face like from the mob guy's point of view, like the bitch that he is. He falls to the ground, shocked. The mob guy looks at him and says, "What are you going to do about it?" Well, what is he going to do about it? Probably
Right.
not much. Most of us wouldn't do it. I probably wouldn't do anything in that case because I am not that kind of predator. I don't have the resources. I'm not hardened by that level of violence. I don't have the scars on his soul that he does. And I don't have the friends and influence to buy my way out of jail time for it. So, what am I going to do about it? I'm going to move the fuck away if I can. Unless,
Yeah.
of course, I'm somehow owned by that guy or the power structures that he's hooked into.
Well,
Like
and this
debt slavery.
well, this is what I think Machine Lies and I ran into is like, they're happy to talk all day about, oh, well, Gen X Jeff is a Satanist and you're a Christian dealing with him. It's like, but if I bring up Luciferianism, they don't want to talk about that. And I think
Right.
you guys are talking about, and I think that's what is really operating around the world. And, I think even a lot of Luciferians probably don't even realize what is really going on, because I think it's like a, hierarchical, pyramid structure where some of these people get it and some people don't. And probably none of them really understand the spiritual aspect fully.
Yeah.
They're kind of taking the deal that's been set upon them, like you said, about, what can you do about it? And I think that's also the other danger that I think that Machine Lies and I talk about a lot, is that they're kind of probably right about a lot of the things that they're doing, quote unquote, not right in a moral sense, but in a metaphysical sense, because as this complexity of technology gets more and more complicated, the ethics get harder and harder to ascertain, because everything's so mediated and so complicated that killing a going to war over something that seems so arbitrary might actually save humanity in the long run, because we don't know what's really at stake, and we can't know because we've been so divorced from the mechanisms of what controls society. So you see what I'm saying? It's like we're
Yeah.
being put to a further and further we're being further and further divorced from understanding what's going on around us, is kind of what my point, I guess.
Yeah,
We
I
think
see what you
first world problems are real problems, and they're not.
That's fair. Yeah.
Maybe I'm very naive, but don't we have people who get paid to figure out what's going on?
Who do they work for?
Well, us, the government,
Really? Who does the government work for?
us.
Supposedly.
Do you
But
believe that? Truly?
Yeah, I did caveat it with maybe I'm being naive, but I still have this
You may
faith.
be naive in a pure way, right? Like a little boy or girl, like, why would my mommy and daddy lie to me about Santa? How could you lie
Yeah,
to
it's
me about?
exactly. Why
They were
would they?
naive. It's not a character flaw. They're just naive, purely naive, right? I think in this regard, I don't share that naivete, and that can be a wonderful thing. It helps a lot of people get through their day. So one of the reasons when your pure and innocent naivete is challenged, and then you decide, wow, that really is too much of a nice comfy blankie for me. I'm going to pretend it's unchallenged. It's one of the reasons we have so much of the world today. A lot of us are willfully naive about power and how it's
I'm
wielded.
just not ready to be that cynical about my country yet,
No one is.
without a really hard, concrete reason to.
No one can convince you into it either. It is something that can only come from within.
Right,
It's
or
like an
from
addict who
experience.
wants to kick their habit. You can reach out to them all you want. You can kidnap them, force them until they reach
I
back
mean,
out
is
in their
that the
spirit
goal?
to
Is
you.
cynicism the goal?
No. The thing is, there's a lot we can do. It's just that we've got to wake up enough people into not being naive anymore and realize these people, whoever they are, right, the absolute power seekers, they love power and security and wealth and dominance so much they'll do anything to hold power. So let's go somewhere where they're not around us anymore. But the thing is, they keep fucking following us, right?
right.
Look at the levels of testosterone that exist in the West now, right? Our T levels have been falling for God knows how long, right? Look at
Yeah,
all
that's
the
verifiable.
kind of soft men you see with colored hair and
Oh,
you
yeah.
know parachute. I'm an obese man now. I'm trying to fight. I'm trying to get healthy. I am a hypocrite when it comes to this. My T levels are probably way, way, way low, but I have some cognizance of the problem. Very generally speaking, in the West, we are being sociological engineered, right? That's what cybernetics is. It's not fucking terminators and chips in your brain and stuff like that. It is the science of social engineering, kybernetes, right? Guiding a civilization. There are cyberneticists working to very methodically cull problematic men and women and questioners from society. They want a placid, docile population because they have access to crazy psycho motherfuckers in Africa, in Palestine, in Chicago, in the US prison system. If they want a flood of hard men, guys, your 20-year sentence is commuted. Here's a rifle. Go fight for Uncle Sam. You don't think prisons would be unloaded and armed up in an instant if there was mass civil unrest in the United States? They would be your shock troopers. Send in Tyrone and Cletus. What are you talking about?
Well,
That's
didn't they
the
use
skinhead
the
guy and the
prisoner
black guy. They're going to fight
to
together
fight
on the same
fire?
team. Pardon me?
Yeah. Didn't they use the prisoners to fight the wildfires?
Yes, they did.
That I'm not sure, but hopefully.
No,
maybe,
they absolutely
Yeah,
did. That's Kamala Harris was one of the people that was behind that. So.
Why do you think the Palestinians have been brutalized in an open air prison that is Gaza?
Brutalized by Hamas.
Yeah, also by Hamas, yes, and by Zionist elements within the Israeli government. Not every aspect of the government. Not every Jew is a Zionist. Not every
Zionist is an extreme fundamentalist, hard right Zionist.
That's true, but that's also like saying not every hot pepper is equally hot. There are gradations, right? But if we're talking about a Zionist, we're already talking about someone who is safely and fairly characterized as a radical compared to
I don't know. I would
compared to
dispute
baseline
that. I know
Judaism.
I know some Zionists.
You know some Zionists that aren't radical. I
Yes.
mean, I've never met one myself,
Then
so
I'm happy to learn about it because that's an area I'm not an expert on any of this. So I don't know a Zionist personally. I've read about it, and I can't imagine.
Well, I think you. I'm not
They're
saying
just
you're wrong.
pro-Israel and pro having a homeland for Israel.
Well, I think what he means by radical, he needs to define it, because I think that this is what me and Machine Lies talk about a lot. And again, I am not an expert on the subject, but my general understanding is like Zionism is an extreme interpretation and reinterpretation of what Christianity and Judaism is actually about. It's not really a traditional interpretation of those two religions, as far as I understand.
No, and it's not even necessarily religious.
But you have to.
I'm aware. I've ran into some Zionists in my time that weren't even very religious. They weren't even religiously Jewish. They were just politically Zionists. So I mean, I've ran into that, but they were pretty extreme still. So.
Well, you could say the same for, I guess, a lot of Christians who are like, well, I'm a cultural Christian, but I'm still a Zionist. And I think, but the thing is, like, how is it not tied to religion? Because obviously there must be a religious undertone to it, because it's about, a religious, or I guess at the very least, group.
For them, I think they only mean they're not religious in the sense they don't believe in God.
Yeah,
well, but
I should walk back to Zionist.
Jewishness is a national identity. It's not a religious identity.
It's both.
Yeah.
It's an ethno-religious community. It's an ethno-religious identity.
But the ethno part is the significant part, not so much the religious part. There are plenty of secular Jews. They've maintained a national identity throughout the millennia, not necessarily a religious identity.
I guess you could say then. I mean, here's my problem with that. If you open that door, Hitler could easily make the same claim, and then people couldn't criticize him as easily, right? I mean, you could easily make the same argument. Well, I should have the Sudetenland because my people had it at some previous time in the past, and these people are sitting in our land. You see what I'm saying? It's like it opens the door to so many justifications that people don't want to make, right? And again, I'm not doing this to be hyperbolic. I'm just trying to do the philosophical implications of such discussions, right? Like I think that's why people are muddying the water on these discussions. Not you, but I'm saying in general, people try to keep the waters muddy because
Oh, I'll try to unmuddy then.
yeah. But if you think that's an extreme example, please push back on it. But that's kind of like the first thing that comes. Is like, if you want to just say, well, if it's ethnically Jews had this place a long time ago, therefore they can just come and take the land.
Well, they
wrong.
didn't come and take the land. They've been on the land for thousands of years. Even when they were in
Please.
exile, they had Jews living there.
Let's also contextualize this with that hadith I suggested everyone look at. Remember, I don't prefer one side to the other. I dislike how radicalized each side seems to have become. Not top down, not every single person, but that hadith talks about the extermination of an entire people as a precondition for their religious fulfillment.
That is
So
Hamas's goal, is in their charter.
I don't think we can not pay enough attention to that, right? That is, it is an existential fight for them. Different forces moved in on the nation state of Israel after it was created after World War II. The 6-Day War,
After
the
the
Yom
British
Kippur War.
pulled out.
Israel gave territory back in order to try and make peace, right?
Yes. Yes.
The Arabs have tried. Some Arabs have tried. I shouldn't say the Arabs. They're not a monolithic group. Certain powers in that region have tried to
Even
push.
certain Palestinians.
At rallies you'll hear, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Like they're literally talking about from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean. Push them all into the sea and take back this land. That we see. We shouldn't. In some regards, it's great to talk about this so we can understand from our point of view. But ultimately, it's not our fight. We are dealing with the expression of Bronze Age blood feud, and we are post-Enlightenment Westerners, like the ant and the TV. It's not quite that big a divide, but it is so far beyond our understanding. Inner city kids from the rough parts of Toronto and Chicago could probably understand this better than we could generally. We're not equipped to understand what's happening well, and we're far less equipped to really offer a meaningful idea of a solution because we're Westerners. We're post-Enlightenment Westerners. Our ancestors went through these bloody internecine wars. We had our religious reformations. The Muslim world has not. Politics is inseparable from Islam. They are one and the same. In the West, we have divorced the two to a degree.
Well, I consider Israel West as well, but I will be right back. I have to.
Okay. Well, so Jack and John, both, are you guys going to be showing up to Machine live stream tonight? I know that me and Jeff are watching True Detective here. Probably at 6 something. I think we're doing it. We're gonna be watching episodes 3 and 4. But I will definitely be over there later.
I'll have a peek, but I don't want to. If it's going to be anything like the last dip of my toes in that water with people coming on just to be shitheads and him falling for it and reacting to it or indulging it, that's a waste of everyone's time. He's letting vampires feed off of him. That's what he's doing.
Yeah, to a degree, but I mean, and I've talked to him about this too, and he's under a lot of stress lately. Machine Lies is a good guy. He's getting, I think, the attacks and everything wearing on. I know he's not sleeping well, and I know what that's like because I sleep like 3 hours a night most nights. The vertigo I have keeps me from sleeping well. It keeps me from getting around well.
Too.
Your mom too. Yeah, it's hell, and yeah, so I wake up in the middle of the night. Like, I know he doesn't have the vertigo, but I do, and so I don't sleep that much. I occasionally have a night where I'll get like 7 hours of sleep, and it feels like I slept forever.
If you don't use cannabis edibles already, you should try them if they're legal in your area. No,
they
okay.
don't work for me. Yeah, well, we don't. Well, only thing that's legal here is the THC 9 stuff, whatever it's THC 9 or 8 or something like that, and it just makes me it makes me more spacey, so it doesn't really help. It makes it harder for me to sleep because it gives me panic attacks. So, yeah.
Have you
Yeah.
tried CBD?
Yes. And for what it's worth, kratom works okay for me for pain, but it also makes me more dizzy and a little sick. So I used kratom for a while. CBD doesn't really have much effect on me that I've noticed, but I haven't taken any of the really strong CBD products. I've only taken some just to try to test it out, but I used kratom for a while, and it really does great for pain relief. It makes me more dizzy than even drinking alcohol does. So yeah.
Are you guys doing like a watch party or something?
Yeah, in fact, we have to. Chris and I are gonna have to end soon to go to it. We're watching True Detective.
So
We're
we
on
can
the.
through your stream or something like that.
We'll
It's
send you
on
the link.
Zoom, but
But we
we
can.
watched the first two
Uh,
episodes last week, so we're continuing from there. And then after that is Machine Lies stream.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I've never done anything like that. But so send me the link if I'm gonna be like a little bit busy this evening, but I like usually most Tuesdays I am, but I certainly will try to jump in and join you guys at least for a while, and I'll definitely try to join Machine Lies as well. But he goes so long, he's gonna be switching.
Yeah, I have a meeting the first hour and a half or so I won't be there till later.
Yeah, but but it's so long, so I think we'll probably bump heads at some point later. But definitely send me guys' stuff if you can, because I would be interested to see how that's pretty cool idea actually. So for the
Yeah,
watch
we've done a few watch parties now. We've done for several movies. Jeff's been doing them since before I started doing with him. So I mean, he's been doing quite a bit. We did the Barbie movie. We
do a TV series on Tuesdays and a movie on Friday, and then we live stream a discussion of whatever movie we do on Friday.
That's an awesome. Yeah, so I'll definitely try to participate in some of them. Pretty
definitely,
cool.
man. We'd love to have you.
Yeah, and discussion, by the way, I just want to mention that like this is the kind of discussion that I enjoy.
It's kind of we enjoy too. That's why we're doing it, I think.
Yeah, thank all of you. Every
Yeah,
one of
we're
you.
so
Thank
thankful
you.
for all the people showing up, man. It's really great.
It's
Like John and Jack, I mean, both you guys and everybody comes in the comments. Like, I'm so thankful for everybody that shows up to comment. Patty, Adaptable, like we really appreciate it. We really like these conversations.
yes, absolutely. And anyone's invited to hop on anytime and discuss.
Don't be afraid to show folks the door if you sense they're being inauthentic. However,
Well, not so much inauthentic, but if they come with the kind of drama they've been bringing the machine, definitely they're going to see the door.
Good.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised we haven't attracted some of the trolls from over Machine Live streams because
They
I know
never
that.
mess with you.
Yeah, that's true.
Because
We don't feed them. That's the thing. Like whenever
right, they know
whenever
machine's going to feed. Machine feeds everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
Cornucopia.
Yeah, because like whenever I went over there last Saturday and stuff, TBE was there on the chat. He was making all these like, oh, look at I can't remember what he said.
Toilet Bowl was on there this week.
Yeah, he was, maybe it was Tuesday, but it was Saturday or Tuesday, one of the two. That he
I don't
shows
know
up
if
the
that's
chat.
masochism or sadism. It's the same
I don't
instinct
know.
anyway.
But he kept
why not both?
Why not both? He kept trying to call me out, saying I was like I was the vaxxed Christian Gnostic or something like that. And I think he was saying that in the chat. I was just like, I just ignored it. I mean, and he just stopped after a while because if you don't feed him, if you don't acknowledge that they're doing it, they just have nothing.
He doesn't mess with me. I'm one of the things that started his whole crusade, and he doesn't even direct it at me. He's going to deflect it onto the people that he perceives as weaker.
I didn't know much about the guy until he was baiting me into such things, and I didn't know what he was. Just like kind of half joking kind of thing, and I just confronted him. That's what caused the whole thing that happened with all of us, which in retrospect I think is a good thing, because I think whatever their intention was probably not very good, obviously, but I think that I kind of disrupted that, unintentionally, just by trying to confront it head on and getting a very strange reaction out of it. So I think not reacting is probably the best thing, because there's obviously something unhealthy going on, whatever that is.
Yeah, definitely.
you know. And I actually feel bad for the guy because I think somebody's using it for something, and I don't think he even realizes it. But that's just kind of my personal.
Glowy, you're onto something right there. That's a whole other rabbit hole. Just look into MK Ultra in the early '60s and think about how far that's progressed up till now. Right?
Well, this is the
Insults and internet exacerbation and men's rights activists spinning these kids off into woman hating, take their money nonsense. There's a lot of heinous manipulation going on. A lot of
yeah,
it.
I think I felt a little bit mentally exhausted because I kind of always knew that some things happened, but I think I got a glimpse into just how advanced some of this stuff really is, and I think it's pretty. I think we're pretty far down the. And it's so funny you mentioned that movie Videodrome earlier because I've only watched a little bit of that movie, but I find a lot of those movies like that, they're pretty, they're telling an extreme version of reality, in my opinion, so.
Yeah, that's another one to add to the list. We need to watch Videodrome and talk about it. I think Videodrome is one of the deepest films of its era. Have you seen
What
it, Jeff?
year did that come out?
1980 something. It's 1985, somewhere around there.
Is that Cronenberg?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh.
it is.
James Woods is in it, and he's an IQ smart individual. I don't know about his emotional intelligence, but he's a very smart man.
Yeah,
1983 it came out.
Yeah, James Wood has done some of my favorite comedy bits. Because he actually has a very, sly undertone to a lot of stuff he does. But that movie is actually very influential to me, like to how I edit videos and stuff, like kind of like shockingness but it's like the shocking draws you into a deeper point. You know what I'm saying? It's I kind of like that style of editing and like I guess storytelling. I think it's very interesting stuff.
Yeah, what's going on with you? Is your channel coming back? It looks like you put some content on it.
I'm just gonna keep everything under the radar for now. I mean, I'm not really trying to grow per se. I mean, if I do anything, it's going to be only among people like who are in this chat right now. Like, I'm not really. I'm not going to go to the general public because I don't. My experience recently has kind of taught me like you should try to keep your hatches closed to the general because I don't know how to say your name, but Nohje just said. I think that we're kind of John. Yeah, we're kind of dealing with some very strange forces at work right now, and I think we try to keep our conversations not private, but just try to avoid attracting bad attention because I think that's a big part of what's going on the online discourse.
Tall fences make good neighbors.
Say that again. Sorry.
Tall fences make good neighbors.
Yeah, that's a pretty.
And not all of it is malicious. A lot of these young folks, whoever they are, they're responding to perverse incentives.
They just seem dissfunctional to me.
In many cases,
they don't seem like the healthiest of people.
Well, yeah, I mean, like that's why I disassociated from my former peer group, I guess you'd say, because I think most of them are well-meaning people, but they're so kind of ingrained in whatever version of reality they're being indoctrinated into that they can't really see what. And I had suspicion, but I didn't really fully see the picture until watching the fallout from this group. It kind of showed me that the other group that I thought looked more genuine. I think most of the people are, including probably the leadership of it. I think they're probably good people, but I don't think they fully comprehend what's going on around them. You know what I mean? I think they're kind of I think they're playing a role, but they're not even there, and that's not.
If my past self from 10 years ago could hear my present self speaking, my past self would tell my present self, "Man, you got to go see a doctor. You got to see someone. You really got to see someone, John. I'm so worried about you. You got to see someone." and vice versa. So they'll come around as they build up their own psychic scars. Right? You can lead a horse to water. You can't make them drink. You can give a friend information. You can't understand it for them. Right? You can't think through it for them.
That's
you can
true.
just kind of show them, like, this is what helps me kind of come up with some of my ideas and what has moved me. Oh, that's just conspiracy. Oh, that's fucking crazy. Okay, it's like an addict. You can't make them change. You can't do the thinking for them.
Yeah, that's very true. And I have had a lot of friends that were drug addicts and stuff like that, and I know that's very, very true. No matter how much even if you can throw someone in rehab or something like that, until they're ready to quit, they won't quit. So I've always lucky like that. I experimented with drugs and stuff whenever I was younger, and I never had a single issue just walking away from it. Oh, did you take off, man? John? Okay. Anyway.
Yeah, I have very similar experiences. Like I actually, I not really that many drugs, but I've always enjoyed drugs because I never really wanted them.
Oh, he's backstage.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't know. Yeah.
Did he mean to be backstage? I didn't mean to put you on stage if you didn't want to be. We're going to have to wrap it up soon anyway to make our show.
I'll leave early. Thank you, everyone. Glowie, nice meeting you. Jeff, thank you for having me again. Chris, I'll see you out about. Send a link for Machine Lies. I'll listen in before I do it.
Yeah, I know Machine wants to talk to you. He wants to talk to you specifically.
Yeah, he does.
He listened to our show last night, and he really wanted to talk to you about the Palestine Israel stuff. So definitely come on, check it out.
Okay, I'm gonna go play some.
This is an open panel, so you can just drop in.
Yeah,
and spend some time with my cats and dog. But I'll see you guys soon. Good night. Bye, Glowie. Bye, everyone.
Bye, man.
Take care. It's good seeing you. Here, let me.
Thanks for hosting, and I really, like I said, I really enjoyed this kind of conversation, and I feel the same way about the whole drug, and also just like I know that I sound like a schizophrenic when I talk about some of this stuff. Like I'm aware, but I'm also trying to not sound that way because. I take a much more nuanced approach than what it sounds like. I know it sounds like, oh, it's a big conspiracy. I think it is, but I think that 99.9% of people are just people. You know what I mean? I don't think it's, a vast conspiracy of like a bunch of people. I think most people are just, stuck in whatever position that they're in, and they're probably trying to fight to get out of it if they're aware that they're in such a position.
Right. No, I don't think you sound crazy at all, man. You haven't really said anything all that crazy, to be honest.
Black magic. I'm interested in this. Next time you're on, remind me. I want to hear about this black magic.
Yeah, actually, I regret deleting my old channel because I had a video about that specific subject, and I
you deleted all your. Do you have them downloaded or anything? Or they're gone forever?
But I'm trying to find a way to get them back somehow. I may be overreacted, but it's all good. It's nothing that I can't recreate for the most part and probably do better. But yeah, I think that's actually a big subject of like the subject of black magic. I mean, it sounds really crazy and esoteric, but I think that there's both that kind, and I think there's like other kinds that aren't so outside the box that is at play for sure. That's I believe in black magic as well, unfortunately.
I should, but I don't.
Okay.
That's from hearing it.
We're gonna get you convinced. That's for sure.
I was talking to Machine about some stuff like that yesterday. Well, I'll go into that tomorrow, or if we stream tomorrow, something like that. I'll go into that whole story. I think I'm probably going to go get myself ready for the True Detective thing. So I think I'm going to go ahead and sign off for the day. But this has been a great conversation as always. I really think, and I'm really glad that like Jack, people like Jack and John and stuff like that, people like keep coming on the streams and stuff like that. I mean, we don't really have a lot of views on these videos or anything like that. We may not have like that kind of reach yet, but I'm really proud of some of the work we've been doing. I really am. I think we've had some really good episodes that are extremely interesting and informative conversations. So I'm really proud of that, and I hope we keep doing it for a while. So,
what time do you want to do it tomorrow? I'm open pretty much all day.
Yeah, me too. So anytime you want to do it, man. If you want to do it at the same time at 3, it's fine.
Okay. I'll set it for that, and then we can
All right.
move it around if we need to.
All right, man. Well, like I said, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna go see see if my wife and baby need anything, and get ready for. I'll see you. Just send me the link for the Zoom call in Discord, and I'll talk to you then. Bye, guys. Bye, Jack.
Bye.
Oh yeah. See. Okay. Well, thank you, Jack. It was good seeing you, and Adaptable, and Patty, and whoever else hung out with us. And we'll be back tomorrow about the same time. So see you then. And I've
Bye.
sent you the link in Discord to the Zoom if you want to drop by.
I got it. I thank you. Have a good day. Bye, Josh.
You too.
I mean,
okay. Oh, thank you, Adaptable. Thanks. I'll take the blessing. Thanks. Okay, well, we're gonna be on Machine Stream in a couple of hours, so I don't know. We'll probably go on panel. So I'll see y'all then. If not, maybe see everyone tomorrow. And you also have a great day. I don't want to. I'm a Satanist, so I don't want to like Satan bless you, but in the same spirit that you wished me well, I wish you well as well. And I'll see everyone tomorrow. Take care.